Good morning. My name is Noelani Pearl Hunt, and I'm the interim CEO of Hand in Hand Parenting. I'm so excited to get to know you today. Parenting is the most rewarding and important role that I have, and I'm sure it is for all of you. What if it was just a little bit easier? Hand in Hand Parent Club gives advice, support, and caring for the toughest, most important role you have. Today, we're giving you a preview of the personal support that you'll receive with a live Q&A with Anna Cole, an instructor with Hand in Hand Parenting. The Hand in Hand Parent Club is a membership that gives you the absolute best information delivered to your inbox every week, with the added support of weekly coaching Facebook calls and conference calls, a supportive parenting community, and free access to our setting limits and building cooperation courses, and Q&A questions with Patty Wiffler, the founder of Hand in Hand. And it's accessible right on your phone. Anna Cole, PhD, was born in the UK and immigrated as a child with her family to Australia. In 2001, she returned to live in the UK with her London-born husband. Since the birth of her daughter in 2004 and her son in 2006, Anna has focused much of her research and practice on the emotional ultramarathon, as Patty Wiffler calls it, of parenting. Anna is deeply inspired by the hand-in-hand approach and its gentle and effective way of marrying insights from recent neuroscience with over 30 years of practical and compassionate experience in listening and supporting children and its parents. Anna, welcome. We're so glad to see you.
It's good to be here. Nice to see you too.
This is our second attempt. So we're hoping that it goes well. Anna, why don't we start with how you found Hand in Hand and what brought you to us?
Yes, thanks for asking. I found Hand in Hand in the playground in Australia, in Brisbane, Australia. A lovely mum who I got to know just in the playground as our kids sort of sat in the dirt on the swings, etc., mentioned to me about a parent support group. And I was so stressed out at the time with a newborn and a 2-year-old, and I was trying to do I was trying to do a research fellowship at the time. I was so stressed I never even got to the group, but it really woke something up in me, and I was like, parent support? Wow, what's that? And I approached that mom and asked a bit more, and she became a listening partner of mine. She was doing listening partnerships, and we set up a listening partnership. And then I just really fell in love with the approach because it had such a big impact on the way I felt I could make good choices at home and think well about my kids and like reparent myself in order to parent well my kids. And then I became an instructor in in 2013. I did the certification training and became an instructor.
You were one of our first instructors in the UK, in fact.
Yeah, I was. Because I came back from Australia and I realized that there was no one here in the UK who was teaching the approach in person. I'd done my training online, which was an incredible experience. Such good people to be tuning into every month. But I really wanted that in person. I wanted to be able to go to the playground with someone else, and if my kid got into a tantrum or a big stay listening moment, that I wouldn't be judged and that I could relax and people would get what I was doing. So I thought I'm going to have to kind of start teaching it locally so I can build a community around me. So that was my motivation at the time. Yeah.
That's so amazing. Well, thank you for being a part of the Hand in Hand family. We really do appreciate you.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
So why don't we get started? So we got a plethora of questions for Patty last week, and we wanted to make sure we honored all the questions that we did receive. So I have a few of them here. I'm hoping that you might be able to help us with them.
I'll do my absolute best.
Yeah. Great. So the first one that I have is, which are the best ways to cope with tantrums with children under the age of 2?
Okay, so my default, maybe people are tired of hearing this, but always think about your own oxygen mask first. So if you have an under 2-year-old, you're really in the trenches. You're probably a bit sleep deprived. You're probably you are learning on the job every day, and you're probably a little bit in love with your child, which is exactly wonderful. And when they have a tantrum, it's very confronting for you as the parent. You sort of what did I do wrong, or how can I stop this? Or so the best thing to do is to think about getting listening partnership time around what's it like for you when your child tantrums, because if you do that as a kind of proactive piece of medicine first, you'll find that when you're in the heat of it, when your child is having a tantrum, you'll be able to think that much better. And of course, we have this beautiful tool called Stay Listening for Tantrums, which is really to, as weird as it might feel, because it's probably not, I would say it's definitely not what happened when you tantrumed when you were little. You had a loving adult just moving close, like if the adult was calm inside them and moved up to you and just said, oh, I'm going to keep things safe here. I'm right with you. And just like if you were tantruming really hard and kicking, make sure that your feet don't get hurt, but that if you had an adult to do that for you, you could have just got all that tension out and it's gone. It's like a storm. It's like an electrical storm or something. It clears and then you can come back out. And so that's what we would love to see for your under 2-year-old, that with the right resource for you, like with listening partnership time for you, you could then move in close, offer your warm eye contact, even if your child, hasn't even got their eyes open, but you're just still there. You're just there. And you're bringing your warm, kind, I know that they can get through this attitude to them. And you let them have the expression and let it come all the way through. And of course, that's easier said than done. If you're in a supermarket, or if you're if you've gone to church or something and your 2-year-old suddenly kicks off, you're in a restaurant, none of this is easy. But the more listening partnership time you can get for yourself, the more fluent you'll feel about just settling in. And then there's another really great thing that you could do as well, if you have got a under 2-year-old who does a lot of tantruming, is think about special time, bringing in special time before you go out to church or before you go to the supermarket. Just really bring in some proactive connection, and that would probably really support your child before you go out. And you may find you can have the tantrum at home rather than out, but it often happens when you're out, because that's when our gets a little frayed and they start to really notice that and need to sort of offload some of their feelings.
A common theme that I hear from parents or from our instructors is that a lot of times this is a parenting technique that's kind of in the trenches. You're really in there with the kids and really making them feel like they're connected to you and that they have you there. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm really drawn to hand-in-hand parenting, because it's the kind of parenting that I was doing already with my 22-year-old daughter and with my 3 bonus kids. I have 16 a 9-year-old daughter and then a 7-year-old son. So my significant other and I are really about in the trenches. And sometimes it's really hard, like you're saying, when they're having a tantrum or they're having a hard time, to really stay focused on that. One of our questions is, I have a 6-year-old grandson who often hits me and calls me names. And I swing between setting limits. He gets scared if I hold him, and his dad, my son-in-law, though he has some understanding of how children release emotions, is uncomfortable with doing it. Or I play with him. I'm just unsure whether doing both is helpful.
Okay. Well, it is. It's lovely what you're doing. Like, so you're setting loving limits sometimes, like, oh, Granny can't let you do that. Ouch, no. And so you're setting a limit, and it sounds like you're stay listening too. But if your son-in-law is uncomfortable with that, then it sounds like you're going for a playful approach as well. And setting limits playfully is like the longer I parent and the more I work with parents, I think that is one of the hidden riches of our approach, is playful limits. They are so effective with children, because it's like often kids are off track because they're feeling scared, and then they're not thinking well. And if you come in playfully, it's the best signal to a child that all is well. Granny is being playful. Wow. I can't really hurt Granny right now, because she's managing to sort of field this in a playful way. So something I love about this approach, the hand-in-hand approach, and it's something that kind of does amaze people. We're
Mm.
not saying you have to be consistent each time. What you can, so in terms of your response, a playful limit is great, or just a loving limit, a clear, no, I can't let you hit me right now, and then stay listening. Both of those approaches are absolutely fine. I mean, great, more than fine, fabulous. And you don't have to sort of decide, I'll only respond playfully or I'll only respond with a very clear limit. You can do both. And the consistency that your child or your grandchild needs in that moment is your limbic connection with them.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
if the no, I can't let you hit me right now, if that comes from a really loving place inside you, then that's as consistent as the playful response. I hope I'm making sense. Like, I know
Absolutely.
some parenting approaches are like, you've got to respond like this each time or they won't take you seriously, but it's not, children aren't dogs and you don't train them. That children are human beings and they have a deep and profound well of love, and they're heart-based and they want to connect with you. So if you're coming from connection, they will, and using those listening tools, they will, doesn't matter if you use one and then the other. It's great. You're doing great. Sounds like you're doing an amazing job.
Yeah, she sounds like she's an amazing grandmother, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of on the same token, there's a few questions that are really kind of focused on this. One of them is, my 2-year-old daughter, after playing with children who are more aggressive, becomes more defensive with her toys. How do I help her cope with the situations with the other children to try to grab her toys and help her to learn to share her toys a little bit more?
Okay. Wow. So yeah, I would say just thank you to that parent for her caring about how to model sharing, and like that's a really thoughtful thing. And then I'm going to say something about sharing. Like, we have a lovely approach to sharing at Hand in Hand, which is really a bit different to other approaches, which is the I'll help you wait approach to sharing. So if two young kids are in a struggle about a toy, we know that really the toy is just a pretext in a way for feelings that are getting difficult for the children. So it's not really about, well, we'll put the timer on and you can have the blue truck for 10 minutes and then you can have the blue truck, because that won't deal with the underlying feelings that are driving the snatching or the grabbing or the I don't have enough feeling. So we have a I'll help you wait approach, which is that you go to the child who has the toy, rather than say, well, now you need to swap it out for someone else. If another child comes and wants that toy, you actually give the attention to the child who wants the toy. So you let the child who has the toy have the toy. They will eventually tire of the toy. And the child who wants to grab the toy off the other child, you give them your warm attention. And they could get into some big feelings about, but I really want that blue truck. But it's really, so often as parents, we will know that if you were to just sort of put a timer on or do some negotiation and give the other child the blue truck, probably very quickly it would be something else that they want. That it's like, it's not the object that is the cause of the real urgency or the desire.
Right.
So we have a I'll help you wait policy. So in terms of your daughter, helping her share, the best way you can help her share is actually to let her know that it's okay to have what she wants and that she can play with what she wants, and that you will actually support her to be with the things she wants. And I can guarantee that once she gets that sense that it's okay to have what she wants and she can have it for as long as she wants to play with it, and that you are going to actually support her to have that, she will naturally be quite cooperative, because there won't be that kind of hungry feeling. Like, we all know as grown-ups that we use objects to replace. We can use them to fill in for other feelings. So if your daughter gets your warm, loving attention, you can take the I'll help you wait approach to sharing. how
That
does it sound to you, Noelani? Just because
that sounds good.
I'd love to know what the parent is. She might be going, what?
No, I think that's fantastic. It definitely makes sense. I know that we do that here at the house. It's hard because, children always seem interested in the toy that is just sitting there, and then they go to use it, and then the brother or sister always wants it just then at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think the I help you wait technique is perfect because it gives the child who suddenly wants the toy, that attention and that time to really feel their feelings and get through it. And like you said, most of the time within, 5 to 10 minutes, the other child will be bored of it because they actually want the attention from you too.
Yeah, exactly.
So you end up trading back and forth with them, and it absolutely makes sense.
Yeah,
So
the blue car is nothing compared to full, warm, unconditional regard from a mum or a dad or another carer or a grandparent. Yeah.
exactly. The theme of younger children seems to run through a lot of our questions. And I think one of the reasons might be is because a lot of parents are in need during that time. Just, with sleep deprivation and, various things like that. So one of the questions we have is, my kids are 3 and 5 and both very spirited. We live about a 5-minute walk from school and daycare, but getting them there and back is a nightmare as they won't stay with me or hold my hand, and they both run in opposite directions. How can I get them to stay with me and listen to what I ask them to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. That sounds like, a 3 and a 5-year-old. That is a really busy, wonderful, exciting time, but really labor intensive. And so I guess I would go really in that scenario for play listening, because
Mm-hmm.
you have two children and they're both needing your attention. So any kind of games that you can get going on the way to school that allow them to somehow be in control, like take charge of the situation that they're heading into. So, I'm trying to think of just really simple games that anything playful that you do they'll join you in the play. Imaginative games would be fantastic. So I know Larry Cohen, who is this clinical psychologist who works closely with Hand in Hand. He gives a lovely example of children in a school, and he says the teacher said to them, "Please stand really, really still. I'd love you need to stand really still," and they managed to stand still for like 30 seconds or something. When the teacher said, "So pretend that you're soldiers and you're standing in the army and you've got to stand like in the army really still." Do it for like 3-4 minutes, or well, maybe I'm exaggerating, but maybe 3 minutes. They could really be, so anything where you engage your children's imagination will really bring them in. So maybe there's stepping stones on the way to school, and you've got to sort of jump from this one to this one, and anytime that you fall off the stepping stone but they make the jump, even better. Anytime there's a little laughter, or so really, I know that's kind of hard in the morning on the way to school. Finding your play mojo isn't an easy thing necessarily, but oh my gosh, you'll feel better. They'll start to cooperate. They, just go for that play listening response. Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. I know that we've done that some too, especially when we're walking home from the store. We tend to get a little fidgety, our little ones, so we tend to make a game of it and really let them kind of lead the way, but also just be really playful. So they love it. So they're always ready to go to the store.
And just to add, I know it's really hard, and I don't want to set people up for things that are just really difficult. But when my son was 4 and 5 and heading to school and not really wanting to be there, the thing that made a really big difference for me was special time. So I really decided I was going to do special time every morning for like 10-15 minutes, and it really turned it around for me, like the consistency of doing it. I really made it a kind of emotional project, as we call it, for myself, where I was getting listening partnership time on what it was like for me to send him to school, what the separation was like for me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
would make sure that I would connect with him before he went to school. And then I would feel more connected. It would feel easier. Because what I've noticed often working with parents and working with myself is some of the resistance to going to school is not just from the child. It can be
Right.
from, yeah, because we've had bad experiences at school, or it's our little baby is separating from us. Or so if you're noticing a lot of sort of friction or tension around school runs and getting to school, really take that to a listening partner and really look at
Mm-hmm.
what it was like when you were the age that your child is now. What was your experience of going to school? Did you get hurried through the whole thing so you constantly felt, rushed?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or did you kind of just blank out to get through the whole experience? So like, what was your experience at that age? So do a
Mm-hmm.
little thinking around there, get a lot of listening time around that. And then if you can, I'm just thinking for this mum with the 3 and the 5-year-old, it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be quite difficult, but if she could just think about special time in the morning, maybe on alternate mornings. So Monday, the 3-year-old, and Tuesday, the 5-year-old, and Wednesday, the 3-year-old, and Thursday,
Mm-hmm.
the 5-year-old. Like maybe something like that. Just 5 or 10 minutes in the morning. Like Patty Whitler has this lovely expression, like turn the snooze alarm into the snuggle alarm. Wake up and start that school day with a lot of connection and snuggling before you go into the routine
Right.
stuff. Fill up your child's connection cup before you try and get into the
Mm-hmm.
logistics of getting through the morning. It really makes a difference. And now, I mean, my kids are now 14 and 12, which blows my mind. And I've been bringing this parenting by connection approach since they were really little, since
Mm-hmm.
my son was pretty much born and my daughter was 2. And even now, I know if I'm just a little bit slower, a little bit more available for connection in the morning
Mm-hmm.
before they have to get into the getting dressed and getting their school uniforms, that everything it's a lot more fluid. So
Mm-hmm.
really focus on beefing up the connection first thing if you can.
That's actually really helpful. I know that that's, even for my 22-year-old, something that's hard for her. So we try to connect on a daily basis, whether it's in the morning before she goes to start her day or in the evening with just a little text because she's down in Southern California and I'm up here in Northern California. We try to connect at least once a day and it helps us. Yeah. So I'll stay on this kind of younger age. I have another question from a parent that says, how can I teach my 4 and 2-year-old girls to cooperate with me and the rules, especially when I'm tired?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. So to cooperate in what? Sorry, exactly. Did she say just
Just to cooperate with her and her rules.
and her rules? Yeah, yeah. And how old are her daughters? Did she say?
4 and 2.
Yeah. Okay. So, again, I don't want to be like beating the same drum here, but play is the natural language of children. So,
Mm-hmm.
really, if you're concerned that they're not cooperating with you and they're not listening to you, a really beautiful approach is to try and get playful around what the rules might be. So, if the rule is you got to brush your teeth. I mean, that's a really important rule, right? You've got to brush your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
But how could you make that a playful thing? So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have so many beautiful resources on our website about brushing teeth, for example, but just game where she gets to brush your teeth, or you kind of go to brush your teeth, but you start sort of brushing, the wrong parts of you, and she can go, no, honey, no, that's not how you do it. So anything where you're taking a less powerful role, but still bringing the limit, like we're going to brush teeth, but you do the teeth brushing in a way that is actually fun for you and for the child. So it's hard to know which rules in particular, but the baselines, the bottom line is if you're feeling like your children aren't listening, it's really, really great to bring in special time. You
Mm-hmm.
can use special time like an emergency tool. Like you can proactively just think, this whole evening has gone pear-shaped and the kids are just driving me crazy. Is this the mum who said she's tired as well, when she's tired?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is really hard. We do have a whole article on the website about games to play when you're too tired to play. It involves things like, you pretend to be a sack of potatoes and you down, and they've got to try and roll that sack of potatoes over, or so you can play games that actually allow you to physically take a break. Like any games that involve the bed are good. Like, you can kind of curl up on the bed and maybe they bounce you on the bed, or anything that allows you to rest while also still being playful and cooperating. Like as you play, their cooperation builds with you, because if they can't feel you there, they go kind of offline as well. Like that is the thing about being a parent, and that's what makes it so incredibly hard. Actually, our children are really tuned into us. They kind of have this almost like limbic radar. They can feel where we're at, and so when we're absolutely exhausted, that can sometimes, like for a 2-year-old, that can probably be a bit like scary, almost like, oh no, my mum isn't available for me. So just take your rest. Lie down on the floor. Like one of the best things you can do if you can feel that you're about to lose it or blow your top and really start getting kind of like policing the rules in a way that's just going to drive behavior off track. Lie down. Literally. I know it sounds kind of maybe a bit crazy, but just lie on the floor, because it signals to your brain that you're not trying to take charge right now. And sometimes from that place, feelings can come up. Like you might, maybe a few little tears will just trickle down your eyes, like this is too exhausting. Like I can't be doing this, And with little children that young, a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, they will, without a shadow of a doubt, they will start. If you lie down, they will most likely crawl up to you. They'll kind of lie on your tummy. It could feel really nice. And you can just kind of put your arms around them. You could do a bit of like rolling. Like you could maybe, there's a lovely roll you can do where they don't get hurt. They don't get squashed because you're holding your arms out, but you just do a bit of physical play. We call it the vigorous snuggle. Let them feel you. Let them kind of get connected to you. And from that place, you'll get much more cooperation. And something I guess I want to add with children that young, and this actually counts right through the ages, a verbal limit is not as effective as bringing a limit. So when we teach limits in our 6-week starter class, we talk about bringing the limit. So standing, washing up, saying, you two stop fighting. It's not nowhere near as effective. It's not probably going to work at all. It's nowhere near as effective as just stopping the washing up, going over, kind of jumping in the middle of them and going, oh, no. We don't, in this house, we don't kick each other. We don't kick each other. Who's kicking? Like bring them close, bring the limit. You can bring the rules and the limits that you need to keep a container for your family, but you can bring them in ways that aren't harsh, because that will just send them off. Like they won't be able to listen so well to you.
Right. Well, and you were talking earlier a little bit about special time and how special time kind of transfers into really kind of consistent behaviors that you're looking for when your children are a little bit off that line of connection. So I have a really great question from a parent that says, with a 1, 3, and 5-year-old, I struggle to do special time. What tips or encouragements do you have to help me establish more special time without sibling interruption? Also, any and all tips on how to do stay listening and play listening with one child without totally ignoring siblings who also need attention?
I hear you, Mama. You've got a lot on your plate. A 1-year-old?
1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah, that's big work. That's 2 years apart.
Right.
So lots of need for you. A lot of calls for your attention. So just to start with your first question about how to get special time established, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I am going to say it again. With all of the tools that we teach, none of them, they're all kind of elegantly simple, but none of them are easy to do if we're feeling really backed up. And most parents we are. I mean, we make time to like go to the toilet like at least once, or a few times a day. But how often do we make time to release what like an emotional, we sometimes call children's really big feelings like they're an emotional poop. They have to come out. The child feels better afterwards. It's a healthy part of a system. It's a system that's working and digesting and releasing. So as adults, as parents who are doing the hardest job in the world of raising the next generation, and we love them with every fiber in our body, with every cell in our body, and we want things to go well for them. We want things to go so well for them. And so we have this big kind of expectation on ourselves, and we're under-resourced, and our society doesn't even tell us that this is real work, that actually there's no pay scale attached to parenting. So there you are at home with a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 5-year-old, thinking so well about them, thinking, I want to bring in special time. And that is that's a big piece of work to just schedule it in. So the first thing I would say is, if you can, take that to a listening partner and take some time for you just to say, it's impossible, this is so hard, I'm exhausted, and now they want me to do special time, and I know it's going to help, but how on earth am I going to fit that in? Or I hate special time. So, I mean, every hand-in-hand instructor that I know has had to do listening partnership time on how boring they find special time at times. And, like, not the train set again. I am not playing blocks. No, I will not play, because none of us had special time offered to us. And so it's very, very hard, if not impossible, to give what you don't get. And so this is why you take it to a listening partner and get them to delight in you in the way that you are wanting to delight in your children. And then it's really not, it's not for me to say exactly how much you should do or when you should do it. But I do know that different solutions can be found, like, if you were a single parent, for example, if you had a neighbor who you trusted and liked, you could kind of get them involved in some way, like kind of beef up the number of adults around and have a friendly neighbor come over to play with 2 of the children while you offer one of the children special time. Or I'm thinking, if the 1-year-old is at home with you more, you could do their special time when the slightly older children are at nursery or at school, so that you've definitely got some special time in with your 1-year-old. That's done. And then you could figure out, maybe it's like before school for 10 minutes with one of them. If one of them wakes up earlier than the other, think about the little windows where you have available time with each of them. Because as this good mum knows, it needs to be one-on-one. Like, it needs to be individual. Special time is special because it's one-on-one attention. I'm trying to think of other solutions. So I know one mum with 2 children, so not with 3 children, but with 2 children, is a single mum who does, like I described earlier, she does special time with one of them on one day and the other one on the next day. And so long as it's equal and they know that they're going to get their special time. And then I guess I wanted to say, when you're introducing special time to a family, there could be really big things come up between the kids about, so the older, so it was 3 and a 5-year-old. I could guess that the 3 and the 5-year-old might get into it about, it's my turn and no, mummy, that's actually really productive. So sometimes if you set the timer for special time, for your 5-year-old, and then if there was another adult around who could listen to the 3-year-old, just spend the whole of that special time saying, it is my turn, I never get special time with mom. And that's really productive, because that's like a really great space to listen to the stuff that drives sibling rivalry, the kind of stuff that normally most parents just sweep that under the carpet, and to actually have a moment where you can listen wholeheartedly So you kind of do need to increase the number of adults there. If you were going to try doing special time and someone would be stay listening to the other one, you would need a couple of adults around. So
Right.
maybe a really babysitter that you can explain what you're doing, or if you do have a partner on the scene, then special times on the weekends when maybe the baby's asleep and one of you can have the 3-year-old and one of you can have the 5-year-old. I guess the bottom line is don't give up on special time. It is the best medicine. It is such good medicine for a family. Yeah, it really is. There was another piece to that question.
There was something. So the second piece was she talked about any tips for how to do stay listening or play listening with one child without ignoring siblings who also need attention. So much of the advice that I read in Listen or heard through the podcast sounds idyllic when you have one child. So she's just not sure how to balance it with more than one child.
Good point. Good point. And again, I guess I just really want to acknowledge this parent because it's hard work. It's hard work having a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, a 5-year-old, all the parents and the grandma who wrote in. This isn't easy stuff. It's not easy if your beloved grandson comes at you with a hit, or like you guys are doing so well to be thinking so well about your children. And what I would say is to remember that play listening is the number one tool for multiple children. So play listening, like obviously you have to picture that they're different ages. So the 1-year-old clearly can't really, she or he may be able to join in with the pillow fight, give them a light pillow, but sort of picture at the ages that they're at. But play listening is a wonderful tool for more than one child. It's really the go-to tool for more than one child. So you could have little gentle pillow fights. In my house, we have these snowballs. You can kind of order these snowballs, so you can have snowball fights all year round.
Oh, that's really
yeah. And they're really light. They're really light. So as hard as you toss them, you can't hurt someone with one of those snowballs. They're really lovely. So you could do. There's a really great game that I have at home, that we play at home, and that we also often teach in our play. We do a play workshop, my friend and I here in the UK, Miranda Fairhill. We do the sock game. So you get the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old, and the 1-year-old could try, and you sit down together and you put your feet in the middle with socks on, and then all you have to do is you say, okay, everybody, when I say go, you just got to get each other's socks off and try and keep yours on, and go, and then and you obviously don't play really, really hard. Like, you don't overpower the children. You kind of, you let them sort of grab your socks. You match them where they're at. So the 5-year-old go as hard as they're at. Like he or she really, if he wants to, or she wants to really give you a rough and tumble, go for it. Let them get your socks off. And so any games like that, it's perfect to have a game like that where you end up with the 3 of them against you. That's really good. If there's a lot of sibling rivalry and tension, like, get the child coming at you, like get the 3 children chasing you for your socks, like, oh no, they're coming together. Like any kind of team that they go on against you is a really brilliant way to deal with sibling tensions and sibling rivalry. Right. And then in terms of stay listening, what I found is that I've only got 2 children and they're much older now, but usually one of them would get distressed. Not always, but basically if there's a stay listening emergency, like stay listening is really the emergency connection tool. So whoever is in the biggest feelings in that moment, they're the one who needs the stay listening. So that dear mum is just going to have to kind of go where the greatest stay listening need is in that moment, and just sort of, and if they were all going off at once, just somehow let them have their feelings and be. And I guess I don't want to set anyone up to feel like they absolutely always have to listen through every big emotional storm. It's just not possible sometimes as parents. So one of the things I find when people come across this approach is because the kind of parents who are really interested in new and interesting parenting approaches, are often the kind of parents who give themselves a very hard time about what they're doing because they're such good parents. They're really trying to do well by their kids. So don't give yourself a hard time if you can't stay listening in that moment. Like, you know, you're going to have to just, well, you could try play listening to kind of remove, you know, turn it around or something. But if you can't stay listen every single time, don't beat yourself up about that. Like, you're still an incredibly good parent who is reaching out for these tools and reaching out for connection. And yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you've mentioned it a couple times. You've mentioned stay listening a few times, and I have a really great question about stay listening, but also if you might be able to give us maybe the 30 or 60-second info about what stay listening is, followed with this question that says, when does regulation come in when consistently stay listening?
Yeah. Okay. I hear you, dear parent. You're thinking, whoa, am I going to have to listen to this? My child, you know, strong feelings like forever. And the answer is you absolutely won't. So I'll give you a little, what is stay listening? So we have the 5 listening tools. We have listening partnerships for parents, essential, special time, absolutely beautiful, proactive connection. You're bringing in the connection proactively. Play listening, similarly, like you can spark up a play listening game. So that's kind of one that like a proactive listening tool. And then setting loving limits, which again, you're the parent and you are setting the loving limits. You're stepping in, bringing the limit, and holding the limit. And then stay listening. Stay listening is when your child gets into a great big upset. And traditionally, we're taught that you've got to stop the crying, that you're a bad parent if they're upset, that you've done something wrong as a parent. And actually, that is just bad information that we have culturally about feelings and emotions. And actually, if your child is in a great big upset and if you're feeling resourced enough to listen, stay listening is moving in, not trying to fix it. And just the basic message is you're safe and I care. And I'm right here. And you don't say very much because they're not really thinking very well when they're not in their prefrontal cortex when they're in a big upset. They're in their limbic part of their brain, their social emotional part of their brain. And what that part of the brain needs is like an animal, a scared animal. They need to feel that you're there and that you're not distressed. And then the child regulates through the parent. That's the amazing work of parenting. We are there to, Maya Coleman, who is an instructor and a clinical psychologist, she talks about co-regulation. So we really, as the parent, we are that source of regulation by our limbic system being caring and calm and available and acknowledging of the child as they're having their big feelings. So in terms of when does regulation kick in, I guess I'm just guessing that what happens as well is when you start stay listening to a child, if you haven't been taking that approach, if you've been not listening to their feelings up until you hear about stay listening, you can get a bit of a peak, a sort of children, when they realize that you're available, they really will let you know what's going on. And so you can feel like, oh my gosh, things just got a whole lot noisier around here. So I've had parents in my starter classes who by about week 3 or 4 will say, wow, I'm really hearing about it from my daughter now. There's upsets almost all the time. And that can be quite scary as a parent. So remember to balance it, like bring in special time. If you're mainly focusing on listening to feelings, but you're not doing special time, it is going to start getting lopsided, because the child wants your attention. They're not trying to manipulate you for their attention or for your attention. But if you're only giving attention when they're upset, you will see a really big spike in it. So make sure, keep going with the special time, keep going with your listening partnerships, keep going with the play listening. I think this is something, Noelani, I really wanted to say. It's just occurred to me that I wanted to say it. One of the best things about joining the parent club would be that rather than just getting a little piece here and a piece here and a piece here, you get the full, beautiful, I like to think of it as it's like an orchestra. You know, all the instruments play together in this approach, and then you start to see something kind of quite beautiful happening, or you can hear something kind of shifting in the way things are. So I feel like I've just digressed. I wanted to say something about what was I talking about? Stay listening.
We were talking about stay listening and the difficulties in the parent was talking about, right?
It feels there might be a real spike.
Right.
I know this from parents that I'm teaching, and they suddenly think, oh my gosh, is it going to be like this forever? And I can tell you, absolutely not. Once your child, like, they might have a bit of a backlog, and once they get a lot of stuff off their chest, once they can really be heard in that, you'll get more cooperative behaviors, you'll get a more connected child, and the kind of the upsets don't necessarily, like, for example, my children at 14 and 12, it's not like they break down at every little pretext. Not at all. It's like they've done a lot of that emotional work that they need to do when they're children, which is when they really need to do it. They still have, absolutely, they still stay listening. And I'm really pleased that there is, because it means that there's like those moments where they're really getting that emotional stuff off their chest. But what you find with children who get regularly listened to at home is that they're more able to regulate outside of the house. Like, they're more able to hold on to themselves, because we say it's like a badge of honor. If your child is really upset with you, that's a great thing. That means that funny badge of honor, but it means that they trust you. They trust you. You're safe enough to show how hard stuff is for them. So it's a really hard badge of honor, but it's a real badge of honor. There was one more thing I wanted to say, which is when you're thinking to yourself, whoa, will I stay listen for the rest of my life? Like, just notice when your child is in the middle of a stay listening upset, it won't look any different, that particular upset, than the one they had yesterday. For example, in terms of pitch or noise or sweat or the words that's coming out of their mouths. But have a look after you've stay listened. Do they make more eye contact with you? Did they kind of quite easily help with the dishwasher today when you said, it's your time to do the dishwasher? Were they gentler with their younger brother today? Did they tell you something about school that they normally don't share that much about school? I'm thinking of older children here, but I'm not sure the age that this parent's child is. But if they were a little kid, did they go to sleep easier that evening? Did they sleep through? We have so many stories from parents, and you can look them up on the website, and anecdotes about, for example, they did a massive stay listening before bedtime, and then, whoa, for the first time maybe ever, their child slept through the night. So you don't look for improvements in the decibel level of the stay listening, but you do look in between the stay listening for connection that's growing. Did they say, I love you, Mom? When they haven't said that for a while, because they feel your connection when you stay listening. So that's what you look for. And don't give up. Don't lose heart, because our children actually don't finish their neural development until around 23, 24, 25. So, like, they still need us to help them regulate. But I can assure you that children who are brought up with this approach don't grow up to be adults who just sort of fall apart or lose it, or in fact the opposite. Like, there's a kind of lovely self-regulation that comes from being listened to and acknowledged when you're most in need of that kind of listening.
I think that's really helpful for parents to hear, because stay listening is the most difficult tool that we have in our hand-in-hand, tools that we use. And sometimes it's difficult to understand as your child is going through those big upsets and those big feelings, kind of where that really helps, because a lot of times we want those ups, it's like we're trying to put out a fire. And I think that letting them feel that during that stay listening is important. But you brought up a really great point, which was you won't see it during that stay listening time, but you'll see it in other areas of their lives.
Yeah.
And that's where you feel like very, very good about the work that you're doing. I
Yeah.
wanted to kind of wrap it up a little bit, but before that, I have one last question. But before I ask you the question, I just wanted to talk a little bit about what you said in regard to the Parent Club. So the Parent Club is a place where it's a membership that gives you the absolute best information that we have to offer, and it's delivered to you in your inbox, along with these coaching Facebook Live question and answer, either phone calls or on Facebook Live, where you get to have great instructors like Anna answer your questions that you either send in or questions that are actually asked on the Facebook chat. So we do answer those questions. She also talked a little bit about kind of the tools that you would learn in the Facebook, or excuse me, in our Hand in Hand Parent Club. And one of those ways that you learn about our techniques is you get access to our free Setting Limits and Building Cooperation course. So you'll learn a little bit more about our techniques. And then the added bonus, the thing that really excites me, and I'm sure it excites Anna too, is that you'll get question and answer sessions with Patty Whiffler every 4 weeks. And, for those of you who were able to see the question and answers last week, Patty just has 30 years of experience with raising thousands of kids, or helping raise thousands of kids. And she is just, this techniques that she's bringing to us are revolutionary. And like you were saying earlier, Anna, they're really simple in intellect, the techniques, but they're very difficult in practice. And so learning to do those things is really important. And with Patty coming in every 4 to 5 weeks, it's brilliant. Actually, it's really exciting. The other thing that I find really helpful is that you also get support in that parent group on Facebook, where you go and you hear those good moms and good dads right there whenever you're having a difficult time. So, Anna, thank you so much for being with us. I wanted to end in the hand in hand spirit, and end with what went well for you, maybe this weekend or this week or today, something that went well for you.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Noelani. Well, this went well. I just had to get up and plug in my computer, so that's why I've suddenly changed scenes. What went well? I had a really beautiful weekend with my kids, actually. We just went to a friend's and had a sleepover, like all of us together. And I was just really appreciating them. I was really appreciating how much I enjoy being with them, with my children. So that did go really well. I felt really kind of proud of them somehow. So that's nice.
That's great. Well, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your afternoon with us. Oh, something that went well. Let's see. So this weekend was Father's Day in the U.S.
Yeah.
And so we had all of the kids over, and we had my significant other, he is an amazing cook. Amazing. I'm surprised that I don't weigh, 300 pounds because of how well he cooks. So he made an amazing meal, and we had my 3 bonus children and which are his 3 children, all together. And we just had a great time with his parents and his sister, and we were all together, which was really great. We really had a great time.
What a lovely, lovely day.
It was lovely. Yeah. So thank you so much for this. I had one question that just popped up in the Facebook chat. So let's see if we can answer this just real quick. So any advice on the best way to let a child know we will be missing out on something if we don't move on, without making it sound like it's a threat, or not making it sound like you only have yourself to blame. So basically, if someone's throwing a tantrum, and say, for instance, you are going to go to see a movie, but they're throwing a tantrum, and trying to get them to move along throughout the tantrum in order to go do that fun activity, it sounds like.
I guess what comes to mind? How old is the child? Do they say how old the child?
It doesn't say how old the child is, but Rebecca, if you have a chance to answer or to let us know in the chat how old your child is, that might be helpful. So why don't we go with maybe an 8 or 9 year old?
Yeah. Because I guess what comes to mind is this idea of the limbic tackle, like
Mm-hmm.
this lovely idea that we have at Hand in Hand, that when a child is off track, they're not thinking well, they're not in their prefrontal cortex, they're not deliberately trying to make your life difficult, they're just not able to think well about the next steps to take. So all our reasoning, any kind of verbal, is this will happen? It's a little bit like going wrong, 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 wrong. It's like it's like they're not hearing it. They're not really taking that in. And
Mm-hmm.
so the best way to kind of bring limits in that situation would be to. I'm just reading the question here up on the screen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I would say don't go for the verbal conversation if they are off track. Actually, it doesn't say. The best way to let a child know we will miss out on something if we don't get a move on without it sounding like a threat. So if they're not already off track, like if they're not kind of in a stay listening emergency, then I would always go for playful because children, as I said before, it is like their natural language. It's like their first language. So if you can get playful around, okay, and I wouldn't recommend competitive games. I wouldn't do the whole who can get out of the door first, but try and think of some way that kind of brings some lightness to the situation that you're in and makes it, imaginative or fun in some way.
Right.
I'm trying to think of what, if you were trying to get them out of the door. There are all kinds of funny things you can play where you start saying to them, you reverse the roles, like, no, like, you're not leaving. No, please, you're not going. You wouldn't think to walk out that door, like, so you reverse the roles so they can go, yes, I am, I'm going now. And, just reverse those roles. But if they were in an emotional emergency and you really needed to get going somewhere, don't worry about the verbal explanation. Go for the limbic. So whatever age they are, move in close. I'm thinking if they were really small, give them a warm hug, pick them up and say, oh, I'm sorry, things are so hard right now. We got to go. Like, don't get so much into bargaining or, like you say, you don't want it to become threatening. So go for a limbic tackle. Come in. Don't worry so much about the explanations and the words.
The limbic tackle works with my 22-year-old too,
Yeah.
so it works for all of them. So good. I'm glad to hear that. So I know that if we need to go somewhere when I'm out there in the UK visiting, that I'll just go in for that hug for you. Exactly. Well, Anna, it's been so great talking with you today. Such a pleasure. And Anna is one of our instructors that we have come on either through our Facebook Live or through our free phone calls that we do weekly. We have another Facebook Live here at 11 a.m. with one of our other instructors, Marilupe. And I'm just so excited. Anna, have a fantastic evening there in the UK. I'm sure we'll see you again real soon.
Yeah, and Noelani, I just really want to thank you because that was early for you. You're amazing. So I appreciate all your hard work and your.
Oh, thank you.
It really shines through. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I really care, and I absolutely believe in hand-in-hand parenting and all the techniques that it does. We say here at Hand in Hand, if you change parenting, then you change the world, and I honestly believe that. So, well, have a good evening. It was so nice seeing you. Bye-bye.
Parents, give yourselves a big hug. You're doing such a good job.
Yes.
Yeah.